Guys, do not forget to hit that sub button for the latest in boxing and raw boxing opinions. So a while ago, I read a news piece that it was quoting Deontay Wilder, and Deontay Wilder was saying that if he beat Tyson Fury, if he were to beat him, he would be basically the A side when it comes to him versus Anthony Joshua. So I guess he would have a lot to say in the matter, like what kind of gloves they could wear, what kind of ring, how big the ring's gonna be, where the fight could take place, how much money. How much money he could get from the split, from the purse, how much money he could demand, stuff like that. Beating Tyson Fury, I think, is a good win for Wilder. Although I think Tyson Fury wouldn't be at his best, I still think it's a good win for him. You understand me? I think it's a good win for him because Tyson Fury was a unified champion. So that is a good win for anyone, right? Anybody who beats Tyson Fury, I think it's a good look just because Fury was a former unified champion, right? So of course it's going to be a good look, right? Like I said, my only problem is the fact that he's been so inactive. So that's a good look for Deontay Wilder. In terms of the guy, I personally think beating Fury is better than beating Luis Ortiz, because Tyson Fury beat Vladimir Klitschko. Luis Ortiz beat Brian Jennings. What's a better victory? Like Tyson Fury's best victory was against Vladimir Klitschko. Luis Ortiz's best victory was against Brian Jennings. So, because people always say Luis Ortiz is the best guy Deontay Wilder fought. So, what's a better win? Brian Jennings or Vladimir Klitschko? That's why, Vladimir Klitschko, right? So, this is what I'm saying. Luis Ortiz, if Fury were to if Fury were to lose to Wilder, that would be Wilder's best win, in my opinion. The Fury victory. Because Fury's proven at world level, right? He beat Klitschko, so that's a great win for him. But would that make him the A side? No, it wouldn't. Because because Wilder is still not a big draw. Wilder's one of those guys that he doesn't generate a big fanfare. Like a lot of people don't, even in Alabama, he doesn't sell out massive arenas. He doesn't have a. You guys know how much I love talking about, ticket sales. You guys know how much I love talking about that. But you know how they say boxing is a business, right? Quote unquote business, right? Well, we have to look at the business side and the facts of who generates the money. And the person who tends to generate the money is Anthony Joshua. He's the guy who sold out 90,000. The UK is smaller in terms of population than the United States. The United States has over 300 million people living in it. And the UK, I believe it has like 70 million people living in there, if I'm not mistaken. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I haven't checked the UK population or whatever, but the UK has less people than the United States. Yet there is a bigger fanfare and bigger, fan support for Anthony Joshua than there is in the UK than there is for Deontay Wilder in the US. You would think that there would be more people in the US, more fans. You would think basically that Deontay Wilder would basically be more popular than Anthony Joshua because there's more people, right? You think, wait a minute, this country has 300 million people and this country has 70 million people. The country with the 300 million people, he should be way more popular because there's way more people who live in his country, so he should have way more popularity. But than the guy who lives in a country with 70 million, right? That's like what common sense would tell us, right? But in the United States, boxing is not as big as it used to be. In the 80s, boxing was huge. If you look at whenever I see like Mike Tyson of matches, like the crowds were going crazy. Like this guy was fighting in New Jersey, Albany. Look at how big the crowd was. Like the people were going crazy. The crowd is not like that with Wilder. He doesn't have a big fanfare like that. Right now, the UK is a lot more popular when it comes to boxing than the United States. In the United States, basketball is a big thing in the US. Everywhere I go, basketball this. Forget about football. Everybody loves football in the US. I personally, I've never been a fan of football, which is crazy, right? Because I'm an American, but I've never been a fan of football. But everybody I know is always about football this, and I'm just like, Okay, I'm like, the Z's. Like, I get bored of watching football. I'm all about combat sports. I like sports where people are physical and like fighting. Like, if it's not boxing, it's MMA. That's why I'm also a fan of MMA. I'm a combat sports fan kind of guy. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, like football, basketball, like these are huge in the United States. Even college football, that's huge. Everyone's always talking about that here. So but yeah, boxing is just not big in the U.S. anymore. Maybe it will be one day, but right now it's just not as big as it used to be. Like, the only fighter in the U.S. that seems to have a really big fan base, who happens to be an American, is Terrence Crawford. But Terrence Crawford really only has a big fan base in Omaha, Nebraska, right? When he fights in New York or MGM Grand, he doesn't have a big fan base. But when he fights in his hometown of Omaha, Nebraska, yeah, people come out, people support him. Like, look at the crowd; they go crazy for Terrence Crawford. Terrence Crawford has a really good, loyal fan base. A lot of hardcore, casual Terrence Crawford fans, they support him in Omaha, Nebraska. Shout out to Omaha, Nebraska, man. The Boston fans are there. They're very supportive. But I could see why they're very supportive of Terrence Crawford, because Omaha, Nebraska is not known for producing great fighters, right? When have you ever heard of this great fighter coming out of Omaha, Nebraska, right? In that part, in that state of America, you don't really see great fighters. Normally when you think of great fighters, you think of guys that come out of, New York, California. A lot of great fighters have come out of California, New York, even, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, East Side, West Side. But Omaha, Nebraska, when is the last, you never hear, great fighters coming out of Omaha, Nebraska. So I think that's why he has such a big fanfare, because Terrence Crawford is considered a pound for pound fighter. Some people consider him the pound for pound king, the number one best fighter in the world, right? And he happens to come out of Omaha, Nebraska. So I think that's why he has such a big fanfare, because he's like the first fighter to come out of Omaha, Nebraska to basically make it, right? I'm pretty sure there's been many fighters to come out of Omaha, Nebraska, but they never made it to like world level. They never made it to like people saying they're pound for pound king. But Terrence Crawford came along and he became that. So I think that's why they're so supportive, because they realize this. Omaha, Nebraska fans, Omaha, yeah, boxing fans, they probably realize, man, we finally got somebody from our neck of the woods, who people are saying pound for pound king. Let's support this guy to the fullest. So that's why they're doing a beautiful job with Terrence Crawford. And I think Terrence Crawford should keep fighting over there, because every time he fights over there, again, the energy is amazing. You look at the crowd, the energy is going absolutely crazy. They're going crazy for him. So, like, if I'm Terrence Crawford, I would keep fighting in Omaha just to keep that vibe going for the United States. I think that's a good look for U.S. boxing when you see the crowds, going crazy for American fighters. So, Terrence Crawford, please keep fighting over there. But yeah, when it comes to Wilder, even in Alabama, compare Alabama's crowd because Wilder, when he fights in Alabama, he tends to fight in the Legacy Arena. Compare that to when Terrence Crawford fights in Omaha, Nebraska. It's way more, the energy levels, people are going crazy for Terrence Crawford. They don't do that for Deontay Wilder. That's why I be saying he can't even sell out 6,000 tickets in his own damn backyard of Alabama. Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Sorry, the people in Alabama, like, they have this accent. They have like this South, country type of accent. Like, all right, the way Wilder speaks. A lot of people speak like that over there. That's the funny part about America. Different states, people have different accents. In Texas, you have a different kind of accent than you have. Like me, I have a New York accent because I'm from the East Side. People from the East Side tend to have a different accent than people from the West Side. You know what I'm saying? So I always laugh when I hear somebody out of like Tuscaloosa, Alabama. They sound a little different than where I'm from, at least. But he doesn't have a fanfare. So even if he beats Joshua, he's still not going to have a massive fanfare. He's still not going to be the guy who sold out 90,000 tickets at Wembley, is he? No, Joshua's going to be that guy. I actually believe if Joshua were to lose, he would still, his stock will probably drop, but he will still be the A side. Because if we're talking about business sense, the business side of boxing, as we all love to say, the business side of boxing, that counts for something. Being the A side, being able to basically generate interest. Gennady Golovkin and Canelo Alvarez fought each other. Yeah, you know who made more money in that fight? Canelo Alvarez. Gennady Golovkin had 3 out of the 4 major belts, right? Canelo Alvarez didn't. You would think Gennady Golovkin having so many belts, he would be the A side. He would be the one making the money, but he wasn't. He had all the belts, but you know what he didn't have? He didn't have the fanfare that Canelo Alvarez had. Canelo Alvarez generates a lot of money because he has a massive fan base. He's from Mexico, but when he fights in the U.S., a lot of fans come to see him. He is the A side in that situation. So yeah, when it came to belts, Gennady Golovkin had the majority of the belts. But guess what? Canelo Alvarez was the bigger name. He was the bigger draw, basically. He generated more interest. More people are fans of Canelo Alvarez than they are fans of Gennady Golovkin because he has a bigger fan base. So that's why he still made more money, even though he didn't have the belts like Gennady Golovkin had. When it comes to Wilder and Joshua, Joshua has all the belts, but on top of that, he's also a big draw. Joshua is basically the Canelo Alvarez of Gennady Golovkin, right? Because like Canelo Alvarez, he is the A side. He's the one who generates the more of the, because Canelo Alvarez is one of the biggest draws in boxing. He's a big draw, AJ. But the difference is, unlike Gennady Golovkin, Deontay Wilder doesn't have all the belts. So he's actually in a worse position than Gennady Golovkin, because at least Gennady Golovkin, he was the one with the majority of the belts, so he could use that to make him, to basically give him a bigger split of the purse, right? Because he could be like, hey, you're the bigger draw, Canelo, but look at all my belts, so you got to give me a big slice of that pie, homie. But when it comes to Deontay Wilder, he doesn't have that. Not only is AJ the A side in terms of the fan base, the fanfare, the amount of money he generates, but on top of that, he's also has the majority of the belts. So he still won't be the A side Deontay Wilder. It would have helped him tremendously had he had at least the majority of the belts, but he doesn't. So do I think he's the A side if he beats Tyson Fury? No, I think he's still I think, like I said, it'll be good for him, but he's not going to be the A side. He's going to have to just take whatever Eddie Hearn offers him. And I've already said this. Beat him. The only way Deontay Wilder would be the A side is if he has to beat Anthony Joshua in Wembley in front of 90,000 hardcore screaming, UK boxing fans going crazy. Then and only then will he be the A side, because he'll have all the belts, and he would have just fought in a massive pay-per-view in front of 90,000 people, and all those 90,000 people will know who Deontay Wilder is now. And trust me, they will go crazy and pay all the money in the world to see a rematch. That's why he better just forget about his pride. I know he has an ego and he wants to think he's the A side, but he's not. He really isn't. Just accept whatever Eddie Hearn is offering him and beat Joshua. Then you'll be the A side, man. That's all. That really is all it takes for him to do it. If he's able to actually beat Joshua. Obviously, that's a lot tougher than I say it is. Just beat Joshua. That's very tough for someone like Wilder to do with his skill set. But if he manages to land on Joshua, he might just beat him. So again, that's what he has to do. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching, and as always, hit that subscribe button. Much appreciated.